guys, this is Aided Law, and welcome to another video where we'll be doing a here guide
Reinforcement
on
guide.
the Republic, or not just the Republic, every single area in the game. And let me just tell you right off the bat, if you die because the hitboxes are doo-doo, then I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. Because that's just dice being dice. And also if you dodge and then get teleported back like usual, like what also happens, I can't help you with that one either. Or you get one-hitted by Luke somehow. I can't help you with that one either. I'm sorry. I'm just really salty about this new update. You can tell from the streams and stuff. But, um, I hope that this aerial hero guide will help you. So, without further ado, let's begin. So first, let's start off with the aerial's movement and capabilities. So the aerial without the star card has 200 health, and can regen all of it. So 200, I guess it would be 240 if you include the card. But he regenerates all of his health, which is actually pretty decent. But it's the lowest health for reinforcement. But even though with its low health, doesn't mean that it's terrible. The aerial's maneuverability is what really makes it shine. And I would rather have a unit that could just fly and hover in the air, but the aerial is fine and it's actually pretty cool. So the aerial's abilities is what makes him great. But depending on which faction you are, the aerial will have a different weapon. So if you're playing for the Republic, it has the DC-17A. If you're playing for the Separatist or Confederacy of Independent Systems, it has the Wrist Blaster. I think that's what it's called. If you're playing for the Rebellion, then you have the A280C. If you're playing for the Empire, you have the RT-97C. If you're playing for the Resistance, you have the EL-16. And if you're playing for the First Order, you have the SE-44C. And also another thing is that every single aerial has a rocket launcher except for the B2 Super Battle Droid, where it has a wrist rocket. Wait, no, not B2 Super Battle Droid. I think it's B2 Rocket Droid. I'm sorry, I'm not that great on the names, but that's just one thing. I think the wrist rocket has a slightly smaller splash radius and maybe does a bit more damage. It's really hard to tell. But just because it's a wrist rocket called a wrist rocket doesn't mean that I'd say it would be better or worse. And I'd say that it's just the same as the other ones. But the reason why I'm doing all the aerials into one guide instead of doing separate guides is because they have the exact same abilities and different weapons. But so they're pretty close to the same. But for the enforcers, I'm gonna do different guides for each one. Also, the aerial has a had other than also the B1, I think it's B2 rocket droid is the only one with 300 health and then extra health regen and stuff. It just has a higher stat, and I think it's because it has a bigger hitbox, and that would explain it. But overall, all the aerials are great. Let's move on to the aerial's abilities.
So unlike the infiltrators or the enforcers, all the aerials have the exact same abilities, unless you consider the wrist rocket and the aerial's rocket launchers to be two different abilities. So on the left is I'm just gonna call it the jump boost 1, which makes you jump up in the air. Then on the right is jump boost 2. It's a tiny bit different. It makes you not jump in the air, but jump in a straight direction and then eventually go down. So of course jump 1 is better. But then jump 2 is just like an extra. And then they have a rocket launcher or wrist rocket, whatever you'd like to call it, which basically just shoots the rocket launcher. And if you hit someone directly, then it will kill them. But usually if you don't hit them directly, it only deals some damage. I'm pretty sure that hitting directly can kill even a heavy. Well, let's move on to the star cards. The first card is aerial training. So this card is basically a health on kill, but for an enforcer. Enforcers have this and infantry have this too, but it's most effective with a hero since heroes can't regen full health. If you're fighting multiple enemies, I'd say this is a good card. But if it's in like a close quarters or less compact game, then I'd say you don't use it, and it's a pretty good start card for certain situations. So if you don't want the health on kill card, then the improved rocket launcher would be the card that you use. So this one basically shortens the recharge time of a rocket launcher. It's actually really good because the rocket launcher deals 200 damage, I think, on a direct hit. So that means that you can recharge it by a total of 10 seconds compared to the other card for the jetpack, which is only 4. So this card is actually really good. If you don't want the jetpack card, then you can also use this one instead. The card that you should always have at all times is Battle Hardened. Basically increases your total amount of health. You never take this card off because the aerial without this card only has 200 health unless it's a rocket droid. And the extra 40 health can make a huge difference between life and death. Like you saw at the beginning, I went down to below 40 health multiple times. Without that card, I would have gone down to 0. So definitely use this card and never take it off. Survivalist is really personal choice. You can use this if you think that your health regeneracy is low, but I preferably don't use it because I know how to get myself out of the situation and into another situation. Also, you have jump packs so you can regenerate whilst you're flying away. So if you want the health regen to be increased, then you do you. But it's not. That's not the card for me, and I don't recommend it at all. Though the final card that an aerial has is improved jetpack. So this just increases the jetpack recharge time, which is really used between this and the rocket launcher card. They're both really good and really helpful in a certain situation, and they're both recommended to use. So if you think that you need your jetpack to recharge faster, then use that one, I guess. Or you could use both at the same time in the health card. But honestly, the aerial has a lot of cards which I feel like you can move around and make different setups. So in my opinion, not all aerials were created equal. And since I'm almost done, I'm gonna quickly rank all the aerials. In last place is the is the um is their first order aerial because their weapon is just too close range to do any good. In second last place is the Empire aerial because the Empire aerial is just has a too close range weapon either as well. I mean, it can do well at kind of mid range, but not really. And then the other 4 are actually pretty close to each other. So in fourth is the resistance aerial, because the EO-16 doesn't fire fast enough for me at least. It feels exactly the same, maybe even worse than the infantry weapon, and that's not really good. So that's why it goes so far. Then it's going to be the rocket aerial because even they have a large hitbox, even though the extra health makes up for it. It's just that hitbox is too large, and their weapon is pretty great, but not as good as the other one. Then it's the Republic aerial, which has one of the best weapons in the game, the DC-15. It's one of the ARC Trooper's pistols and is dual wield. And then finally, at the top is the Rebellion aerial, because the A280Cs get at close, long, and mid range, which not many other weapons could do. So those are all the aerial ranks. Because the aerial is the weakest reinforcements does not mean it's terrible. And I went up against this full sweat in one of my streams once, which is like 250 aerial. But once you like understand the game, I don't think that the aerial is for like the casual players who play this game occasionally. But once you get used to the aerial, you can do really great with it, and fail at climbing a droid leg. But the aerial is probably the most underrated of the classes, and I guess the droideka is the most popular. But honestly, in my opinion, the aerial is better than the Droideka. I know that. Well, in the certain situations, it is. Like for escaping, then it's probably the aerial. But those are just my thoughts. And I'd say don't the only ones that you shouldn't use are the Empire and First Order aerials. Other than those, then you can use any of the other 4 aerials. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'm sorry that I haven't been uploading that much at all this week. Just my schedule has changed after summer break's over, and that's about it. Thank you. So thank you guys once again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.